Shall we start, ma'am? Namaskar. Good morning to one and all. First of all, I warmly welcome you all to the online course conducted by Mahila Mahavidyalaya Nandanvan Nagpur in collaboration with Rajkumar Keval Ramani Kanya Mahavidyalaya, R.S. Mundle Dharampet Arts and Commerce College Nagpur and the Board of Studies in English, RTM Nagpur University Nagpur. Before we start the session, let me introduce the resource person of the day. Today we have an experienced speaker, Dr. Archana Gupta, who is going to conduct the session on literary forms. Dr. Archana Gupta is an assistant professor, Department of English, Srimati Binzani Mahila Mahavidyalaya, Nagpur. She has got huge experience of teaching in the field of higher education. She has been a resource person at different events. Her contribution in the field of research is highly noteworthy. She has published 22 research papers in different national and international journals. She has also delivered many academic talks on different occasions. She has also completed UGC-sponsored research project. We are really fortunate enough to have such a lady with us today on this occasion. I hope her deliberate discussion on literary forms will definitely prove to be beneficial to all of us. Once again, on behalf of all three colleges, I welcome you all to the online course, and without wasting time, I invite Dr. Archana Gupta to carry out the session. Dr. Archana Gupta, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for introducing me so well. At the outset, before I begin with my presentation, I would like to congratulate and thank the organizers of this BA Semester 1 English Literature online course, Dr. Urmila Dabir Madam, Principal of Rajkumar Keval Ramani Kanya Mahavidyalaya Nagpur, Dr. Vandana Bhagdikar Madam, Principal of Mahila Mahavidyalaya Nagpur, Dr. Tanuja Nafde Madam, Principal R.S. Mundle Dharampet Arts and Commerce College Nagpur, and Board of Studies in English, RTM Nagpur University Nagpur, and coordinators of this online session, Dr. Manjushri Sardesh Pandey, Dr. Madhvi Moral, and Dr. Anil Dodevar. Thank you all. So let me begin with my presentation. Sir, is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Is it shared properly?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. So this is the session on literary forms. Literary forms is the section 4 of your syllabus. And in this section 4, one part is dramatic forms or forms of drama. And I'll be dealing with this part of the section 4, which is forms of drama. So after spending an hour in this session, one should be able to learn the concept of drama as a genre, understand the different forms of drama, gain insight into the different categories of these forms, utilize and apply the acquired information while studying and enjoying literature. This is my presentation outline. Through this presentation, you will come to know drama as a genre and forms of drama like tragedy, comedy, tragi-comedy, farce, melodrama, problem play, chronicle play, poetic drama, and absurd drama. Let us first get introduced with what drama is. Drama in the most general sense refers to any work designed to be represented by actors through action and dialogues. Through action and dialogues. It's a literary genre that allows actors to act out to writers' words directly to an audience. As Marjorie Bolton says, it is literature that walks and talks before our eyes. Drama has plot, character, dialogue, setting, and it also expresses an outlook on life. It needs elements outside of itself for its completion, like actors, settings, props, stage managers, etc. And the ambience or mood may be created by the skillful use of costumes, lights, music, etc. And therefore, the dependence of drama on stage or play performance imposes several restrictions. See, let me elaborate upon this. When you read a novel, you read it and finish it. But when you study drama, it's the written text is there, you can read that, then this written text is performed on stage as well. And when it is performed on stage, there are too many things involved, and these are the set, the costume of the characters, the acting, the props, the light, the music, the direction, and many more things. So all these things come into the performance of a drama. And drama has many forms, out of which tragedy and comedy are the two broad divisions. And here, today, we will be studying these forms of drama. The first is tragedy. Tragedy, the picture itself suggests what it is. The term tragedy is applied to drama that features tragedy elements in the story. Now, the protagonist is the main character of the play, the main character around whom the story of the play revolves. The earliest known tragedies are the Greek tragedies or of Sophocles, Euripides, and Aeschylus, and later the Roman tragedies of Seneca. So, from here we come to know that drama has an origin centuries back. It is not a new trend. Since before many centuries, the concept of drama came into existence and it was performed then also. Arist- Aristotle in the Poetics has given the definition of Greek tragedy as an imitation of an action that is serious, complete in itself, and of a certain magnitude. Aristotle further said that this action roused the feeling of pity and fear in the spectators and then purged them of these emotions. This feeling of pity and fear in the spectators roused by the actions of the tragic hero is catharsis. See, here is the concise definition of tragedy. And this definition you will understand in the later presentation of this session. But you have to keep in mind various aspects which are there in the definition. The aspects are the action. The action rouses the feeling of pity and fear in the spectators, feeling of pity and fear in the spectators, and then purge them of these emotions. And then the audience is purged of the feelings which are of pity and fear and which have come from the drama. And feeling is this feeling which is created by the actions of the tragic hero is known as catharsis. Now let's understand what tragedy is. The atmosphere of tragedy is sober and serious. The tragic hero who would evoke pity and fear is of noble birth or high rank. the king, the prince, and members of their households. The tragic hero is a virtuous character who makes an error in judgment, and this brings for a reversal in his fortune. So, and this error in judgment or defect in the personality of the tragic hero, and which leads to his downfall, is often referred to as tragic flaw, and the word hamartia is synonymously used for tragic flaw. So, the tragic hero is there in tragedy. This hero evokes pity and fear. He is of high rank, and but at the same, he is a virtuous character. But he does some error in judgment. There is some fault in his personality. This, because of this defect, because of this problem in judgment, there is downfall in his character, in his life, and this is referred to as tragic flaw or hamartia. Now, in ancient Greek drama, the tragic characters were made to put on a thick-soled and high-heeled boot called the buskin or pothernus to make him appear tall and majestic. Though common men can suffer as deeply as a man of high rank, and their misfortunes equally deserve our pity, the old dramatists never took them to be the heroes of their tragedy because for them the lives of the famous and powerful offered fitting subjects for tragedy. The fall of a king or the ruin of a great family is more impressive to the spectator than the fate of the common people. Though in the modern age, tragedy means a drama with an unhappy ending and disastrous enough to have tragic effect. There are many writers who have written tragic plays. These are Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, William Shakespeare, Thomas Kyd, John Webster, Jean Racine, Henrik Ibsen, and Samuel Beckett, to mention some. To elaborate upon tragedy, I have taken an example of William Shakespeare's Macbeth. Macbeth is not the only play which is a tragedy. Hamlet, Othello, King Lear are also his tragic plays. So let's see the story of Macbeth to understand tragedy well. The play takes place in Scotland. Duncan is the king of Scotland and is at war with the king of Norway. As the play opens, the audience learns of Macbeth's bravery in a victorious battle with the king of Norway. Duncan decides to give the title of Thane of Cawdor to Macbeth. Macbeth is a successful and loyal soldier in the army of King Duncan. Banquo too is a successful and loyal soldier in the army. As Macbeth and Banquo both return home from battle, they meet three witches. The witches predict that Macbeth will be Thane of Cawdor and King of Scotland, and that Banquo will be the father of kings. After the witches disappear, Macbeth and Banquo meet two noblemen who announce Macbeth's new title as Thane of Cawdor. Upon hearing this, Macbeth now begins to think of the second prophecy of the witches and contemplate the murder of Duncan. Lady Macbeth, wife of Macbeth, invokes supernatural powers to strip her of feminine softness and thus prepare herself to plot the murder of King Duncan along with her husband. Macbeth becomes the king of Scotland. Then, to fulfill the third prophecy of the witches, he even attempts to kill Banquo and his son. He is successful in killing Banquo, though his son could manage to escape. Later, in the play, Macbeth too is killed, and Lady Macbeth commits suicide as she cannot maintain her composure and goes insane upon committing the murder of the king. So this was the short story of the Macbeth. Now let's see how the play Macbeth conforms to the poetic tradition of tragedy as defined by Aristotle. Macbeth, the protagonist, is a character who is highly renowned and prosperous as a general in the king's army. and besides is prosperous in the battle as well. He is quite contented with his life of an army man. Most importantly, he is loyal to the king, but the prophecy of the witches changes his life altogether to a murderer. Macbeth's tragic flaw is that he is lured to the prophecy of the witches and could not resist the temptation of power. And in all these, his wife too supports him. The audience can identify with the hero, connect themselves with the suffering of the hero, and feel pity and awe within themselves. Thus, the effect of the drama on the audience is one of catharsis. These are some of the timeline scenes from the play Macbeth. The three witches, Lady Macbeth convincing Macbeth for the murder of the King Duncan, Macbeth murdering King Duncan, Macbeth becomes the king. The major takeaway from the study of tragedy as a dramatic type are a protagonist with a tragic flaw features the downfall of a previously heroic or well liked character, circumstances that quickly get out of control and not in a funny way. Darker themes such as human suffering, hatred, or poverty, an ending that results in one or more characters' deaths, reaches a tragic catharsis. Tragedy can be classified in two ways with reference to its form or structure. It is classical tragedy or romantic tragedy, and with reference to its matter or theme. The main feature of classical tragedy is the observance of the three unities and the employment of chorus. The three unities of the drama are unity of time, unity of action, and unity of place. Aristotle, in his Poetics, has suggested about these three unities. The unity of time means that the time over which the plot is spread be the same or approximately the same. The Greeks considered if the events extending over the years were shown in a few hours on the stage, they will lose logical connection. And also, these events would have no semblance of reality. The unity of action means the plots should either be purely tragic or purely comic, but not a mixture of the two. In a plot, there should be either tragedy or comedy, but not a combination. In a tragic play, in a tragedy, there are instances of comic plots, but they are not to be mingled. These instances of comic plot are to relieve the tension in a tragedy. The unity of place means the plot should be confined to one place. The scene could not be in Athens in the first act and Alexandria in the next act. Let me tell you, Athens and Alexandria are the two different cities in Greece. The chorus is other noteworthy element in Greek tragedy. The chorus consisted of the body of actors whose role was to report the audience of all that had happened off the stage and to make moral comments from time to time to deepen the effect desired by the dramatist. In the good in the ancient times, drama was meant for entertainment. At the same, it was also meant for moral teachings, social teachings as well. That is why it is mentioned here that the chorus was made to make moral comments as well. The romantic tragedy is not bounded by the three unities and also except for introductory passages. It does not employ the chorus. With reference to its matter or theme, tragedy can have numerous divisions corresponding to the numerous subjects it treats of. The prominent subjects are love, romance, tragedy, comedy, tragedy, drama, and tragedy.
विद्यार्थी मित्रांनो, काही तांत्रिक अडचणींमुळे मॅडम परत कंटिन्यू करतात आहे. मॅम, प्लीज अनम्यूट युअर सेल्फ. Please unmute yourself, ma'am.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, but your presentation is not
Shall I
visible.
continue?
Yeah, you
Yes.
continue. Your presentation
Okay.
is not visible, madam. Please share your
Oh,
screen.
okay,
Your
fine. Is it? Share screen option is not, yes, got it now. From the slide, okay. Is my screen visible now, sir?
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
my screen, huh?
It's visible, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
So comedy, we were talking about comedy. Comedy is a type of dramatic work that leads with the light side of life and aims at evoking the laughter of the audience. According to Aristotle, comedy deals with the everyday activities of ordinary people. In tragedy, the characters are involved in circumstances that impel them towards an unhappy ending. In comedy, though the fortune of the characters may be unkind for some time, but all becomes right in the end. There is no serious or dangerous action in a comedy, and the story ends on a happy note for the protagonist. The purpose of tragedy is to effect a catharsis or a purgation of the emotions, and that of comedy is to refine the manners. Tragedy purified the feelings, comedy refined the conduct. Tragedy aims at raising the audience morally and spiritually, whereas the comedy corrects the social failures of the audience. The atmosphere of comedy is mirthful and light. Like tragedy, comedy too may be classical or romantic, depending on whether it observes or ignores the classical rules as has been elaborated while we were understanding tragedy. Now, Ralph Royster Doyster by Nicholas Udall is a 16th century play and is regarded as the first comedy written in English language. William Shakespeare's All is well that ends well, as you like it, measure for measure, The Merchant of Venice, Much Ado About Nothing are some of his comic plays. Now, tragi-comedy is another dramatic form. As the word implies, tragi-comedy is a tragedy and comedy mingled harmoniously together. It is a play in which the action, though apparently leading to catastrophe, is reversed to bring about a happy ending. It is distinct from tragedy that has comic scenes and from comedies that include tragic scenes. I'll just elaborate the last point. It is that in a tragi-comedy, there are instances of tragedy as well as there are instances of comic scenes. But the thing is that the intensity of tragedy is somewhat more, and intensity of comedy is also somewhat more in tragi-comedy. But it is not that intense. The tragedy or the comedy is not that intense as it is in a tragedy or in a comedy. It is a mixing, a harmonious mixing of these two forms, tragedy and comedy. Tragi-comedy is an entirely individual form, and it too has its own sets of features. These features are: the main purpose is to describe the dual nature of reality, where both modes can coexist, perhaps simultaneously. Therefore, the interweaving of both aspects give a comic and tragic view of life. It means in a life, if there are episodes of tragedy, then there are also episodes of life. A life is not simply tragedy or simply comedy. It's a mix of it. And to reflect this mixed form of life in drama, this form, tragi-comedy, came into existence. The protagonist is usually under the threat of some impending disaster, but this danger is suddenly averted and the play ends happily. There is mingling of upper and lower class characters. This is also there. Like in a tragedy, there are only upper class characters. In a comedy, there are lower class characters as well. And in a tragi-comedy, there is a mixing of both upper and lower class characters. The characters often undergo some form of transformation before the end of the play. Mostly, the characters are exaggerated. It is often incorporated with jokes throughout the story to lighten the tone whenever it is tragedy. The term tragi-comedy first appeared around the 3rd century BC in the play Amphitryon by Plautus. Amphitryon is a Latin drama for the early Roman theatre. It is Plautus' one play on a mythological subject. He refers to it as a tragi-comedy in the prologue. And with this play, Amphitryon, I will try to explain what tragi-comedy is. In the story of this drama, Jupiter, the king of gods, falls in love with Alcmene, a mortal, and married to a farmer, Amphitryon. Amphitryon is away from home and is at war. Jupiter disguises himself as Amphitryon and comes to Alcmene and shares bed with her and leaves Alcmene only before the arrival of the farmer. The farmer eventually finds that his wife has been unfaithful to him and is pregnant. The farmer immediately resolves to disgrace her publicly, and on the other hand, Alcmene is confused over the reaction of her husband. But Jupiter quickly intervenes and tells Amphitryon and Alcmene the truth and sets everything right and saves Alcmene from disgrace. In the end, they celebrate the birth of Hercules, the son of Jupiter, from Alcmene. Now, instance of tragedy in the play is Alcmene's infidelity, for which she could have been punished by her husband and the society as well. And the punishment was death of Alcmene. And of comedy is Alcmene sharing bed with Jupiter, disguised as her husband and not identifying him. More incidents of comedy is the birth of Hercules and the use of puns in the play. Thus, Amphitryon is the first example of tragi-comedy. Some examples of tragi-comedy dramas are William Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice, The Winter's Tale, Anton Chekhov's The Cherry Orchard, Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, and Harold Pinter's The Caretaker. So the takeaways: tragi-comedy is a literary genre that blends aspects of both tragic and comic forms. The term can describe either a tragic play which contains enough comic elements to lighten the overall mood, or a serious play with a happy ending. Now, farce. Farce is another dramatic form. It is an exaggerated form of comedy. Its aim is merely to provoke hearty laughter, and to do this, it employs absurd characters, situations, and dialogues. The origin of farce could be traced to the ancient Greek comedian Aristophanes. See, drama as such has its origin in Greece. Therefore, all the forms, especially the older forms, we find in Greek drama. The main features of farce are: farce is a low-brow comedy. Low-brow comedy, a comedy in which lower characters, lower form of comedy is there. It is a lively caricature and not an actual representation of things. It's a lively caricature. In the society, there are ills. In the society, there are things which can be laughed at. These ills are caricatured, are exaggerated to enhance laughters. And in this way, the farce aims at correcting the society. Now, characters too are exaggerated types. It belongs to the realm of nonsense, in which the characters are free from everyday cares and restraints. There are several surprises and disclosure in a farce. Characters and dialogues are subservient to plot and situation. The plot is complex and intricate. But the thing is that the characters are exaggerated. There is low-brow comedy. There is not an actual representation of things, but an exaggeration. Then only one can remember whatever was shown, whatever was told, whatever was conveyed in a farce drama. The best example of a farce is the English playwright Brandon Thomas, Charlie's Aunt in 1892. Then there are elements of farce in William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream and The Merry Wives of Windsor. Farce is also used in tragedies for comic relief, as for example, Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus. These are all dramas which have the elements of farce. And William Shakespeare is a noted dramatist in in English drama. Is a noted dramatist, and therefore we find in his plays almost all dramatic forms. Now coming to the melodrama. Melodrama, just as farce is exaggerated comedy, melodrama is a dramatic form. It is a drama musical plays, including operas. In modern usage, however, the term is used to describe any kind of writing that that relies heavily upon sensationalism and improbable events and typically concentrates on bombastic or excessively sentimental dialogues rather than action. The main features of melodrama are: a melodrama has sensational themes and plots are full of conspiracy. The characters are one dimensional, perfect hero, virtuous maidens, dastardly villains, helpless aged parents, faithful servants, and other stereotypical characters. Good and evil characters are distinguishable. The action may be violent and bloody. The plot has murders, abductions, drowning, fires, etc. The language is overwrought and full of heightened emotion. Intense emotions and exaggerated gestures are common in melodrama. The protagonist suffers or is endangered due to the machinations of the antagonist. However, they triumph in the end because of their endurance and virtue or due to luck. Examples of melodrama. Examples of melodrama include Edward Fisball's The Red Rover and Diane Bocal's The Streets of London. In this session, today we have studied tragedy, comedy, tragi-comedy, farce, and melodrama. Questions, if you have any, you can ask through chat box. Thank you. These are the sources which I have used. With this, I end with today's session, and tomorrow again we will meet to discuss the rest of the dramatic forms. 4 more dramatic forms are there in your syllabus. These 4 forms, problem play, and the rest 3 will discuss in the next session, which will be tomorrow. So for today, thank you. We'll meet you again. Dodeva sir? Snehal, I need your help. Stop screen. Stop sharing. Over to Dodeva sir. Hello. Hello. Join live. Are there any questions from you, my dear students? Hello? I have unmuted. Join live. Are there any questions from you, my dear students? Hello? Join live. Are there any questions from you, my dear students? राठौड़ जी को कौन करते कुछ So, in this presentation today, we have studied tragedy, comedy, tragi-comedy, farce, and melodrama. So, in this presentation today, we have studied tragedy, comedy, tragi-comedy, farce, and melodrama. What is tragedy? in the question paper, generally, there are two types of questions asked. One will be asked to write short notes, like explain what is tragedy, or write a short note on tragedy, and you will be asked to explain comedy or any dramatic type. Okay, then what you have to do, you have to write the short note on either tragedy or comedy or farce or melodrama or problem play or whatever it is. For that, you have to begin what are dramatic types, what is drama. You have to write at the outset, and after that you will write explain what is tragedy or comedy or whatever is asked. Then there may be short answer questions as well from the text, or there may be objective type questions. Objective type questions fill in the blanks, or true or false, or answer in a sentence or two. And these set of questions I will provide you at the end of tomorrow's session. That is when we will understand the rest of the dramatic forms. At that time, I will explain you, I will give you a list of questions in my last slide, so that you come to know how to prepare for the exam, and how the questions will be asked. Since you are new to literature, this question is obvious from your side. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Dear students, if you have any question, you can ask or you can drop your question in the chat box. I will read out and Gupta madam will answer. You can drop your questions on YouTube. Dear students, if you have any question, you can drop it in your chat box. I think no question.
Yes, there was one question which I have already answered.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much for making a wonderful presentation on literary forms. Dear students, we are almost at the fag end of the session, and what is left is the formality to propose vote of thanks. So, on behalf of Mahila Mahavidyalaya, Nagpur, Rajkumar Keval Ramani Kanya Mahavidyalaya, R.S. Munle Arts and Commerce College, and the Board of Studies in English, RTM Nagpur University, Nagpur, I express my deep sense of gratitude to Dr. Archana Gupta for accepting our invitation and delivering a wonderful lecture on this occasion. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. I also record my deep sense of appreciation and thanks to all the students who have extended wonderful response to this online course. Thank you very much. We shall meet tomorrow with the new resource person and with new topic. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.